and welcome back to the most amazing channel on the internet. I'm your host Rebecca Felgate, and today we're talking about the top 10 scary warnings from the past, part 2. You guys loved part 1 so much that we have made a part 2 for you now. If you haven't seen the first part yet, then check it out. We've got a card with a link just above my head. Also, why don't you guys let me know what the scariest moment from your past has been, and while you're down there leaving me a comment, why don't you leave a thumbs up on this video. Also, if you want to connect with the creative team behind this video, there are links to all of our social medias in the description box. Coming in at number 10, we have the apocalypse. The end of the world has been predicted so many times in history, and it's hard to take those warnings seriously, like so many times. Nonetheless, right now some Christian conspiracists are predicting that the end of days is coming in 2021. The Bible does actually talk about the end of days, and that book dates back thousands of years. The World Bible Society also says that Jesus will return after the end of days in 2028. Apparently this comes from studying the Bible and pinpointing a date for the rapture. Society President Dr. B. Shaw said that 7 major signs have already been fulfilled, 5 major signs are currently being fulfilled, and 15 more major signs are yet to be fulfilled. I don't know, I'm not sold on this one. Coming in at number 9, we have a warning from the Egyptian tombs. The Curse of the Pharaohs. Classic. The curse of King Tutankhamun's tomb warned people off disturbing it for thousands of years. King Tutankhamun died in 1400 BC and was buried in a chamber in Thebes in Egypt. When his body was buried, the ancient Egyptians wrote a warning, as they did on many other burial chambers. Fast forward around 2,500 years, and Lord Carnarvon and Howard Carter's team ignored the warnings and entered King Tut's tomb in February 1923. This is really when the trouble began to start. It seems the curse was very much unleashed despite thousands of years of dormancy. 9 people directly related to the excavation and tomb opening died shortly after the burial chamber was breached. This included the financial backer of the excavation, Lord Carnarvon, and 2 of his relatives. Similar cases of plagues and pestilence followed after opening other Egyptian burial chambers. I guess don't say they didn't warn you, because they did. I'm honestly not too sure if I believe in the curse or not, but I have to say it certainly is a worrying coincidence. Okay, this however I do believe in. We have the Mayan ruins and their stark warning against deforestation at number 8. The Mayan civilization was one of the earliest intelligent empires and certainly rivaled the ancient Greeks, Egyptians, and Romans. Between 2000 BC and 250 AD, the Mayans thrived. They had complex societies with farming, elaborate architecture, writing methods, artwork, and infrastructure. The problem was that the Mayans grew haphazardly, and all of a sudden, their booming population of 19 million started to decline and then almost entirely died out. Why? What was left of the Mayans soon ran into the invading Spanish colonists, and by this point, they didn't have the manpower to stave them off. The lasting Mayan structures, for example the Chichen Itza in Mexico, serve as a sad warning that civilizations can and will die out. So, once again, what happened? There is a lot of evidence to suggest that deforestation and subsequent local climate and drought killed them all off. The Mayans chopped and burned wood at an alarming rate. It seems it took the burning of 20 trees to create just 1 single square meter of city space. Because cleared land absorbs less solar radiation, less water evaporates from its surface, making clouds and rainfall more scarce. So basically, deforestation added to what was already a time of drought. The lack of forest cover also contributed to erosion and soil depletion, which made farming and harvesting even harder. The Mayans were around longer than we as modern nations have been, and I have to say, warning, modern humans, warning. If we don't learn from their mistake, perhaps we will have even more elaborate ruins than they did. Deforestation is going to be a problem. Coming in at number 7, we have the dodo extinction. The last dodo died 350 years ago. Long before then, and long after, species have died out, but somehow the dodo has become the poster boy for mass extinction. When the Dutch invaded the island of Mauritius, the bird had been plentiful, but it went extinct within 100 years. Why? Well, the Dutch may have hunted and eaten them, but more likely, ship rats and other animals brought over to the island by the ship ate the dodo eggs and outcompeted the birds for food. Sadly, by the 1660s, the dodos were lost forever. Yes, once again, extinctions do happen naturally over time, but this one was on us. This wasn't the first time human interference of a habitat led to the extinctions. It certainly wasn't going to be the last. It was a warning and we didn't listen, or if we did listen, we didn't care. In the past 500 years, we have been directly responsible for the total extinction of thousands upon thousands of species and the critical endangerment of thousands more. Why does it matter, some of you may say? Well, even if you're totally devoid of compassion, species balance out natural ecosystems, and without them, they can collapse. Have you ever heard the answer to the question, what would happen if all the bees died out, for example? If you haven't, I don't know, maybe you want to give it a listen. Coming in at number 6, we have Glacier 511. The world's deadliest avalanche could have been avoided had the Peruvian authorities listened to American scientists David Baynes and Charles Sawyer. These guys noticed that a glacier in the area, Glacier 511, was extremely unstable. When they told authorities in 1962, they were simply thrown in jail. Despite warning the Peruvian government that a glacier would soon cause a deadly avalanche, nobody listened. Just 8 years later, the avalanche came and buried 25,000 people under ice. In total, there were 70,000 casualties. Coming into number 5, we have the warning of antibiotic resistance. Alexander Fleming was given a Nobel Peace Prize for his work utilizing penicillin to create antibiotics and cure serious bacterial illnesses. When accepting his prize in 1945, he warned us of a future where frequent and improper use of antibiotics could lead to superbugs. That warning has been echoed by medics across time, who warn that by not taking the right dosages of medicines, we can allow our bodies to become resistant to the drug. Then, it is possible for us to spread this resistant sickness to others, which is how a very, very dangerous pandemic could start, and we wouldn't then be able to cure it. If a post-antibiotic era does come, some estimate by 2050 it could kill more people than cancer. Coming in at number 4, we have the stark warning by Koji Minora about Fukushima. Fukushima is described as the worst nuclear disaster in the world. I actually recently watched an episode of Dark Tourism with David Farrier, who I might, side note, be a little bit in love with, and he was on a nuclear tour and registered some insane off-the-charts radiation levels, even in the areas of Japan that the Japanese government have deemed safe. What is going on? So the Fukushima disaster happened in 2011 as a result of the tsunami and the Tohoku earthquake. It was entirely preventable if people would listen to not one, but 2 scary warnings. Koji Minora had read an ancient poem that described an earthquake in the northeast of Japan. On investigating, he found that in the year 869 AD, an earthquake had erupted in the area of Fukushima. This earthquake erupted every 1,000 years or so, meaning that actually we were overdue, and those who built the nuclear plant must have known that, or they absolutely should have done. He warned people, they ignored him. He spent 20 years trying to warn as many people as possible, publishing his works in magazines. Again, his warnings fell on deaf ears. He and the ancient poem were proven correct in 2011, and now parts of Japan are in utter ruin or totally contaminated. Coming into number 3, we have The Simpsons. We've done a whole top 10 list of the ways The Simpsons predicted the future, so I definitely encourage you guys to watch that. Either way, The Simpsons writer Matt Groening has been predicting the future for years. The Simpsons warned us about Siegfried and Roy's tiger attack 10 years in advance. We were warned about faulty voting machines, the NSA spying scandal, the Ebola outbreak, and they even predicted Donald Trump would be president long before he considered running. Lisa says that she inherited debt from her predecessor, Donald Trump. Let's hope that the economy part isn't a warning, just unfortunate non-coincidence. Coming in at number 2, we have the Cold War false warning of 1983. Some of you watching might not know about the night of September the 26th, 1983. A lot of us weren't even alive, but our parents and their parents probably were. Many of them may not have known that their lives were very nearly over. This was the night that the world almost ended. Lieutenant Colonel Stanislav Gustav Petrov was in charge of the Soviet Union's nuclear missile early warning system and the retaliation. In this early autumn evening, the bright red warning lights in a secret control station flashed. They were flashing to warn of an incoming missile from the United States. In the Cold War, the USA and the Soviet Union had a policy of mutually assured destruction. Now, Petrov kept his cool, unsure if the warning lights were a false alarm, as he only saw what looked like 5 missiles incoming. He had the sense to suspect that if Americans were going to strike unannounced, they would probably do so with more than 5 missiles. Rather than pressing his missile release button to fire back at the USA, he simply waited. A dangerous game, sure, but within 15 minutes he realized that this was indeed a false alarm. So many people in charge would have been hot-headed and fired back without any hesitation. Had the USSR struck America, a full-blown nuclear war would have begun that night, ending life as we know it today. Luckily, Petrov was shrewd and composed, but the incident serves as a warning not to trust computer systems over human judgment. It's also a warning that hotheads with fingers on buttons might just cost us our lives, not naming any names. Finally, coming into number 1, we have George Orwell's 1984 warning of the surveillance state. Orwell wrote 1984 almost 70 years ago in 1949. While his famous literary work was set 35 years into his future, the totalitarian state he envisaged was a hyper-reality, a fiction imagined by exaggerating trends he saw in the modernizing world. It turns out that 70 years later, his book may be less fiction than it is a word of warning. Orwell predicted CCTV and hidden cameras, as well as government spying on private conversations, which, if we learned anything from Ed Snowden, is definitely happening. He also predicted that televisions would be used to listen to civilians. Now, these days there's a lot of speculation that our smartphones might be listening to us. John McAfee, maker of antivirus systems, said, "If you give me just a small amount of information about yourself, I promise you, within 3 days I can turn on the camera in your computer at home and watch whatever you're doing." Basically, in short, 70 years ago, George Orwell warned us of the surveillance state. So guys, that was the top 10 scary warnings from the past part 2. Did you enjoy this list? Do let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, and don't forget to let me know your scariest moment from the past. We've got to the point of the video where I like to read out comments from one of my previous videos, and if you leave a comment now, I could be reading out your comment in the future. So I'm reading comments from my top 10 scary Egyptian tombs that should have stayed closed, and many of you agreed. George or Hicks wrote, "This makes me want to change my major to archaeology." Our channel member, Foster Dog, wrote, "These are always so interesting. Classy as always, Rebecca." Thank you for being a channel member, by the way, Foster Dog. Legendary Logan wrote, "Can you please make Anglo-Saxon legends?" Do you know what? I really like that idea. I really do. We had another comment from another channel member, Century Champion, who wrote, "Awesome video. Definitely gave me a bit of a chill. Lol, sorry for the long session of not posting comments. I have been so busy with work, but luckily things are cooling down and I can comment more." Well, thank you once again for leaving that comment, and thank you for being a sponsor and member of our channel. Honestly, without you, we really couldn't do it. Have you guys been watching our live streams, by the way? We try and do them on Wednesdays. I think sometimes it's every other week, but if you want to see all 3 of us together, then there we shall be. Thank you guys for watching this video. Once again, don't forget to leave me a comment. Also, please do leave a thumbs up on this video, share it with a friend, and stay subscribed for more most amazing lists. I'm your host, Rebecca Felgate, and I'll see you soon.